She walked into the hall like she always did, quietly, carefully, hoping not to be noticed. The velvet curtains of Preston Music Conservatory hung like royalty at either side of the stage, but she didn't belong in the light. She was part of the staff, a cleaner, a ghost in uniform. Emily Johnson adjusted the sleeves of her faded gray cardigan, still damp from where she'd tried to scrub the red wine stains off the rehearsal room carpet. Her hair was tied back in a low bun, practical, plain. Her sneakers squeaked softly on the polished marble floors as she moved between the rows of gold-trimmed chairs. She paused, crouched to pick up a stray playbill, and kept her head down. No one noticed her unless she was in the way. The hall was buzzing tonight. Masterclass week, final auditions. Families with old money and louder expectations filled the air with whispers and perfume. A few music students milled about, carrying violin cases or cello stands, wearing scarves with the school's crest, all of them too busy to see the woman stacking sheet music at the side of the stage. Emily moved instinctively. She knew which chairs were loose, which light fixtures flickered, where the draft crept in from the west door. She'd worked here for 3 years. She'd vacuumed under the Steinway more times than she could count, dusted the framed portraits of composers no one played anymore. She knew this hall better than anyone. But the piano, she never touched it. Not when people were watching. She would glance at it sometimes in the early mornings when the light filtered in through the stained glass windows and no one was around. Her fingers would twitch. She remembered once, long ago, what it felt like to press a key and have the world respond. She never dared any more. "Hey, janitor." Emily froze mid-step. A group of students was gathered by the stage laughing. The one who spoke was tall, curly-haired with a sharp chin and a sharper tongue. Joshua, the prodigy pianist. 3rd year, self-proclaimed genius. "You got any of that, special polish?" he asked, grinning at his friends. "The one that makes the keys less peasanty?" Laughter. Emily didn't answer. She walked past the piano with the same quiet steps, gripping the cleaning rag in her hand a little tighter. Joshua wasn't done. "No offense, just wondering if you play. You look like someone who might have had lessons in a community center or something." She stopped, turned slightly, and gave a small nod. Nothing more. "Really?" Joshua raised a brow, amused. "That's cute. You should audition. They're taking everyone now. Might let you mop up after your performance." Another burst of laughter. Emily didn't respond, just turned away, her face unreadable, and kept moving toward the side door. Her silence only made them laugh harder. By the time evening fell, the grand rehearsal room was filled. Folding chairs squeaked as students and faculty packed in. Tonight wasn't for the elite performers. Those had already been selected. Tonight was the open recommendation showcase, where students could nominate a peer they thought deserved a shot. Most nominations were jokes. Some were cruel dares, and someone had submitted her name. Emily stood just off stage, holding a paper towel roll in one hand and her ID badge still clipped to her sweater. A faculty member had called her earlier that afternoon, thinking it was a student prank, but the paperwork was complete, and her name was on the list. She had no idea who filled it out, but she'd signed the acceptance slip anyway. Now she stood behind the curtain, feeling every eye in the room press against her like a spotlight, even before she stepped out. The announcer read her name hesitantly. Next we have Emily Johnson." Whispers. A couple of quiet chuckles. The stage lights flared to life. Emily stepped forward. She looked down the long aisle of students, professors, and visiting parents. She saw the smirk return to Joshua's face in the second row, the sideways glances from 2 cellists near the back, and the unsure tilt of Professor Langley's head as she adjusted her glasses, likely wondering why the janitorial staff was suddenly on stage. Emily's hands were trembling, not with fear, but something heavier, older, a weight she'd carried since she stopped playing, since her mother passed, since scholarships dried up, since the world quietly told her that dreams were luxuries for people who could afford them. She reached the piano. The black surface gleamed under the lights. She ran her fingers across the edge, not yet touching the keys. Her breath was shallow, eyes cast down, unsure whether to bow, explain, or simply walk away. She sat. For a second, the room was filled with a different kind of silence. Not the kind reserved for jokes or disbelief. Something expectant, anticipatory. Like the few moments before a storm hits. She rested her fingers on the keys. And then, nothing. Not yet. Emily closed her eyes. She didn't think of the audience. She didn't think of Joshua, or the stain on her cardigan, or the 1,000 ways this moment could go wrong. She thought of a kitchen in a small apartment in Brighton, of her mother humming Debussy while cooking lentils, of a second-hand upright piano tucked against a window with chipped white paint, of playing into the night while her mother sat with her tea and closed her eyes, listening with a tired but full heart. Emily opened her eyes. She didn't look at the audience. She began to play. Softly, just one phrase, the left hand first, then the right. Fluid, clean, gentle, like she wasn't trying to prove anything, like the notes were breathing. A murmur rippled through the back rows. Joshua leaned forward. Emily kept playing. There was no grandeur, no theatrical flair. Just honest, aching music, measured and slow, as if the keys had been waiting for her all this time. The melody wasn't one they recognized. Not exactly. A blend. A conversation between fragments of Chopin, Debussy, and something entirely her own. She didn't look up. She didn't need to. The room was still. Not silent because they were mocking. Silent because they were listening. Emily's hands hovered for a moment after the last note. Then she slowly stood, not waiting for applause, not expecting it. She turned, walked off stage, back to the shadows, back into the quiet, but behind her, no one moved.